All right, ladies and gentlemen, so I know a lot of you guys sent me this video because you wanted me to react to this. This is a Dragon Age the Veilguard review from IGN. Now, this particular review is from a reviewer called Leanna Hafer, who is a trans male woman thing. I really don't know. They call themselves to be non-binary, but they use she, her pronouns, so I'm thinking it's a guy, you know, trying to play as a woman or something. Besides the point, this particular review has caught the attention of a lot of people, and it's because it's obviously coming from a place of complete and utter shilling.
This is fine.
Now, if you guys don't know, on multiple different streams and on multiple different videos talking about Veilguard, I specifically said that IGN was going to give Veilguard a 9 because a 9 is the shill's number that tries to mask themselves as shills and try to present themselves as credible. They can't give it a 10 out of 10 because if they give it a 10 out of 10, it's going to be way too obvious that they are shilling for this game, and they don't want to give it anything less than a 9 because this is their game of the year. This is the game that has to be the big winner. This is the one that has to be a commercial success, even if it's a financial disaster, it doesn't matter. They need this game to look like the best game in the world. And that's exactly why they would give it a 9. And lo and behold, they gave it a 9. So let's get into this review, guys. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. And like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. Let's get it.
As I excitedly slashed, blasted, wooed, looted, and delved my way through the stunning and enthralling world of Dragon Age the Veilguard, I kept having one thought. Wait, BioWare made this? 2024 BioWare?
You're really selling it.
With this.
By the way, a lot of the ironic things about this is that if you look at all the reviews on, you know, multiple different outlets, you're going to realize that this shit is highly sus, right? Because they're all saying the same exact thing. This is BioWare. BioWare's returning to form, right? If you look here, there's a little compilation on Twitter where they all look like they wrote their reviews with ChatGPT, where it all says the same exact thing. This is a return to form with BioWare. This is without a doubt a return to form to BioWare. This is a return to form for the once lauded RPG studio BioWare. This is a return to form. Like, they literally just keep just repeating it over and over and over again. But anyway, let's continue.
This game coming in the wake of the debacle that was Anthem, itself preceded by Dragon Age Inquisition and Mass Effect Andromeda, which were both merely alright in hindsight. I wasn't sure these former masters of the role-playing game craft could make a game like this anymore. But putting together my team of interesting and endearing companions to save the world felt like getting the...
What's interesting and endearing about these companions? They're androgynous. They can be trans. They have scars. They have pronouns.
Old band back together, in more ways than one.
Archdemons attacking the north wall!
Try the horns.
The Archdemon's too loud!
No one's retreating.
There's no choice, sir. We're under siege. We have to fall back to the dragon trap.
Forget the trap. Send word to Commander Janos.
I really want to know, why is it that we have devolved so much when it comes to character animations? How is it that we're in 2024 and we have worse lip syncing, worse animations than we did in 2010? Like, how is that possible? The only way that's possible is if people are being hired who aren't fit for the role, aren't fit for the job, and aren't capable. That's the only way it's possible, and it continues to be a thing. I wonder why that is. You know, obviously people are going to say DEI hiring, and I totally get that, but still.
Outside the wall.
The scope of this adventure is the whole north of Thedas, sending you from the coasts of Ravain to the blighted wilds of the Anderfels, as you attempt to prevent the rise of an ancient and menacing evil. It was thrilling, as a longtime fan of the series, to finally see so many of the places I'd only read about in a journal entry way back in 2009. And the way BioWare has us go about that exploration is very focused and deliberate. Veilguard's level design was one of the first things that jumped out at me, reminding me of the original Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
So focused and deliberate is basically journalist speak for linear, I imagine.
Almost more than anything. The slick, looping corridors with just enough little nooks to discover are cleverly interconnected in a way that proves how a BioWare-style RPG gains a lot and loses almost nothing by ditching the idea of a fully open world.
Yeah, so yeah, okay, so they ditched the idea of a fully open world, meaning that it's not open world. It's not an open world game at all. It's very linear, and they give you the perception of open world by giving you a little bit of a caveat, you know, a little bit of a little ditch in a corner that you can go get an item from. But aside from that, it's a linear experience. So at least they're admitting that.
The exceptions to that are a couple of the more vertical sections of the city of Minrathous, which can be a little bit of a pain in the ass to navigate sometimes. Across the board, though, the environment art is really jaw-dropping. From the desolate peaks of Kal Shirak to the surreal floating elven ruins in Arlathan Forest. I was very pleased with the character designs, too.
Yeah, so you get nice, beautiful landscapes only to get smacked with the most androgynous, weird-looking characters of all time.
The armor and outfits are fabulous. I spent more than
Was that a black dwarf? I don't know why that looked funny to me.
an hour in the character creator, like I usually do, and came out with a version of our protagonist, Rook, who delighted me every time she was in frame. This might be some of the best looking hair I've ever seen in a video game.
It looks like he made the character that he wishes he could look like.
I'll bet.
Even with all of that visual splendor, I was able to get a stable 60 FPS at 4K on my RTX 4070 Super, with DLSS set to maximum performance, which usually didn't affect the visual quality in very noticeable ways.
A lot of people are saying that the game is extremely laggy on console, that is struggling to maintain 30 FPS on console. I don't know if that's true because I don't play on console, but for any of you guys playing on console, let us know in the comments if you can how the frame rate is, because I hear it's pretty terrible for people who have early access.
The one exception to this was in the late game when there could be so many spell effects going off at once that I not only lose frames, it's also just difficult to even see what's actually going on. Through the crackle and sparks, though, Veilguard's combat is definitely a refinement of what we saw in Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition.
They definitely make it, like, it's pretty obvious this is very God of War inspired. If you look at the combat, they're not lying when they talk about it being inspired by God of War 2018. You could see it through and through throughout the entire game so far.
I've always preferred the more tactical style of Dragon Age Origins or Baldur's Gate 3, but that ship sailed so long ago for this studio, not even the Evanurists remember what it looked like. And so...
Which is exactly why Baldur's Gate 3 was made by Larian Studios and not BioWare. Thank God that's the case.
Judging this very action-focused combat system for what it is, it's pretty good. BioWare has committed fully to the fast-paced style and refined it to a point that I enjoy it quite a bit. And the ability to pause and issue party members' orders, just like in Mass Effect,
Bro, this shit
still gives some opportunity for more tactical players like myself to look around the battlefield and consider our next move.
This shit does not look like a Dragon Age game. I gotta be honest with you. I understand Dragon Age 2 was definitely more action combat focused and it kind of fell off, which is the reason why a lot of people didn't like it. It was also super linear. It was kind of just the complete opposite of Origins, right? And it was very jarring for a lot of people. And they tried to bring it back with Inquisition and kind of go a middle ground between the two. But this just looks like a full-on action game.
It definitely feels better on a controller than mouse and keyboard, though. I was somewhat disappointed that party members are more like extensions of your own character in combat at this point, rather than their own entities. They don't even have health bars, for instance. They can't be knocked out, whereas you instantly lose an encounter if Rook goes down.
Well, that kind of sucks that your companions can't go down, so there's no threat to them. So there's really, like, you're not worried about them. You're not trying to. That sucks. That, again, it takes away from the tactical combat, right? Where you can lose other party members, like in Baldur's Gate 3, for example, whereas that can't happen here. So you don't got to worry about it.
They do have equipment slots and skill trees, though less than what Rook gets. But overall, the amount of customization available for the whole squad through piles and piles of interesting upgradable loot was more than enough to satisfy my RPG appetites, if not fulfill my wildest fantasies of intricate battle management.
I'm sure it's going to have great gear, great equipment. I'm sure that's going to be a thing. That's pretty easy to do, I would imagine, for BioWare. If they mess that up, That would be really sad considering.
Nice shot.
In my 100-hour, near 100%, almost obsessively completionist playthrough, I styled Rook as a Spellblade, a mid-ranged melee hybrid mage, and really enjoyed the playstyle once I'd unlocked all of my core tools. Dancing with a dagger through a lightning storm I summoned, darting out of danger and then back in for a lethal blow, is just a really good time that rewards precise timing and wise target prioritization. This isn't the tactical Dragon Age of my youth, but it is a Dragon Age I can vibe with.
Well, again, at least they're admitting that this is not the Dragon Age that you should come to expect if you are a fan of the original Dragon Age games, which is what we have been trying to say for the longest time. Don't expect a Dragon Age game when you go into this. This is not what that is. Just go into this expecting a completely different game that happens to have a Dragon Age name attached to it, because that's really what it is.
And the highlights of combat are definitely the boss fights, which offer a really satisfying challenge, even on the default difficulty. While standard mob fights with Darkspawn or Venatori cultists eventually got a little repetitive after 90+ hours, going up against a high dragon never failed to get my blood pumping, as I had to carefully study attack patterns and think on my feet.
There's our chance. Get in there.
In the sense that a BioWare RPG is really about your companions, also known as the friends we made along the way, this might be the most BioWare game of all time.
Yeah, I'm going to call BS on that. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to call BS on that because anybody who's played some of the original BioWare games knows that the relationship potentials that you have with your companions and how deep it can go and how many like actual real choices you have that actually make a real difference in the game, especially Mass Effect 2, where you could have an ending that ends terribly, where you can't even go into Mass Effect 3 because it ended so bad. I highly doubt that you could sit there and say this is the most BioWare game ever, just because a couple of the companions happen to be, you know, non-binary, trans, or whatever.
Not only is the whole squad made up of complex, memorable, likable, distinct personalities from across Thetis, but they're all treated as the stars of their own story. Veilguard is light on that.
It was like that in the other Mass Effect games too. Like, even though, you know, Commander Shepard was the main character, all the other characters had their own arcs, their own main stories. Like, again, none of this is true. That's how it's been for the longest time.
Classic kind of side quest that's like, help Bingo Bongo find some nug grease.
Bingo Bongo, shout out to Leon.
And I don't miss those much, because they've been replaced by full-length heroic arcs for each companion, with twists, turns, a personal nemesis, major character developments, and a moment of triumph fit for a protagonist rather than a sidekick.
Our rogue necromancer has hidden something terrible behind.
I mean, I think we pretty much got what we're going to get from this review, to be honest with you. It's very obvious that a lot of this comes from a very personal standpoint for this person. I would imagine that they saw themselves in this game and they just felt so magical about it that they had to put out a 9 out of 10 out of, you know, a 9 out of 10 review, and they just had to show for it. It is what it is, man. They got obviously paid to do this, and they're going to continue to do this to maintain their access and talk about how amazing and diverse this game is. But ultimately, what I saw was an action game. I didn't see a Dragon Age game. And talking about the companions made me realize that this is just shilling at this point. Because to say that this is the most BioWare game ever, when there has been BioWare games with insane complex relationships with companions, I think it's ridiculous. And it's very easily provable that this is not true. So anyway, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, this is basically what I expected from IGN. I really can't be shocked by this, and I'm sure you're not shocked at all, but you can let me know in the comments down below. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.